by goons who were trying to, invade people's businesses. And today the police were just trying to make sure that no businesses are invaded or no one is attacked within the CBD. So I'd basically say today there's not been quite the numbers of the Gen Zs that we usually see. So we cannot really say this is really mandamano, but we would say that the police have been trying to disperse crowds of any gatherings, because they're talking about, these are the crowds that gather up and end up becoming, erupting chaos. So basically what we are seeing is just police, throwing tear gas canisters to any group of youth or any group of residents in the Nakuru CBD trying to gather up. So basically what they're trying to do is to ensure that no one or no group of people will be able to come together and join forces and maybe try to, to protest or maybe to even invade businesses, because these protests have become quite, confusing, because we are not really sure whether we have, the peaceful protest or we have goons who are just trying to get their way, maybe to get into businesses, attack residents. So it's been quite a confusion. So the police officers are just trying to make sure that no gatherings of anyone are seen. So at the moment, the police are just, going around the CBD and, throwing tear gas canisters. So far, we've seen a few number of people have been injured, some from falling. Another one has been injured from a stone that was coming from, the protesters. So it just hit him and he's quite injured. So basically, that is what is happening here in Nakuru CBD. But I'd say that so far we have quite some tension. We have businesses, nearly most of them are closed down. The major businesses are closed down. People are rushing from work to head home. Transport is a bit paralyzed. It's not as smooth as usual. Everyone left in the CBD is just all alert, not aware what may culminate. But basically, I wouldn't say we've seen quite a gathering of peaceful protests here in Nakuru City. We're just seeing some, small groups of youths just trying to gather up. But what I'd say is that Nakuru CBD is all a cloud of tear gas as the police just try to disperse the rather rowdy youth. But we've not seen the Gen Zs come out to protest in thousands of number as we have seen previously. So, Chacha, that is what we have for now. Just trying to follow up and see how this ends up at the end of the day.
Thank you, Mumbi Wambugu. It's good to see you after some long time. I believe when the situation comes, perhaps you'll come to the city, or I'll come to the city. Well, let's now listen in to what's happening in the Lakeside County, that is Kisumu County, where the residents are giving their views on the Gen Z demos. Live from Kisumu, here are the updates.
Gentlemen, I want to say that the International Monetary Fund is encouraging moral hazards like corruption and embezzlement of funds. It is doing this by rewarding failure with showers of money. We recently saw the Central Bank of Kenya Governor, Mr. Kamau, was supposed to secure a $1 billion fund from the IMF in June. They were supposed to finalize the agreements in June. Yet there are various cases of embezzlement of funds. We hear the Auditor General reporting every day that billions of shillings cannot be accounted for. So we want government to take action. We demand that government should act on the audit report by the Auditor General. We want to see the perpetrators of this crime arrested and prosecuted. Thank you. these demonstrations will, of course, will prolong until government resolves issues being raised by Kenyans, such as unemployment, corruption, and many other vices in society that are in the control of government. Yeah.
Citizens of Kisumu giving their views as far as these demonstrations are concerned, and here in studio I still have my panelists, and just still to engage, that is Steve Mbugua, Council Member, Law Society of Kenya. You're still expounding on the point of why have our police officers out of the country to Haiti, 200 additional have been deployed today, whereas the military is still, you know, ready to be deployed within the country. Is it the high time, perhaps, for President William Ruto to declare or to cancel the deployment of KDF?
The thing is, how can he do that? And the person who issued that order is not there. The office has been closed already. We don't have a cabinet secretary for the defense who issued that gazette or to recall that gazette notice. The sad part, which I think is what Mudalo was mentioning about, is what I think the president needs to show goodwill. Nobody wants the country to fall into anarchy. And I don't think it's a desire of either the protesters or anyone in this country to find ourselves the route that we see other countries have fallen into because of anarchy. But as we converse and chart a way forward for this country, it is important we put in place measures and show goodwill that we are putting these measures in a manner that is geared towards reforming the country. As I mentioned to you that if the president is willing to show an act of goodwill from especially the use of police force, he can easily direct them. They are under his command, they are under his executive. He can easily direct them not to use violence to peaceful protesters, to stop hailing canisters to peaceful protesters, stop killing them, stop abducting them. That way, Kenyans will be able to rebuild trust, because we have to appreciate, Chacha, that Kenyans have lost trust with the leadership, and that explains why we saw thousands of them on 25th of June walk into Parliament to remind the parliamentarians that we, the people, are the sovereign, and the powers you're exercising is a delegated power which we have given to you to do a particular work, and we have set out your work on the Constitution. Mm-hmm. So the demand is mainly, and the show of goodwill is in regard to him putting in place mechanisms to show that they are complying with the law, complying with the orders which are already in place, and that will make the life very easy for every Kenyan to be able to work. Even right now, you look at the city is abandoned. Why? Because Kenyans, those who want to protest are not, some of them will have come out in large numbers, but they are scared of their safety from the police. There are those who don't want to protest but want to run their business. They are also scared the police may not provide safety for their businesses. Mm-hmm. So it is a space where Kenyans are worried, both the protesters and the non-protesters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
let me just give final remarks to James Aosa, also to allow another Gen Z to join us in the panel. You know, James, what are these grievances that you still have? I mean, President William Ruto has so far showed to be listening to Kenyans. What are these issues that are still pending, even as we wind up?
One, I'll just say, kindly, there is a lot that needs to be fixed. From the poor health, the interns who have not been given work, teachers, the JSS, they're still pending. Everything is just, it's not working. We are trying as much as possible to ensure that our country moves forward. We are fighting for this nation. And you see, there's something that it's not talked about. A lot of these Gen Zs, and I wouldn't even try to mention that the Gen Zs are the ones who are striking right now, because it's a shift. This is now about Kenya. It's about everyone. It's about a partyless nation. It's about a tribeless nation. It's about a leaderless nation. And what we are trying to say is, kindly, whatever your ideas were, can you use good policies, the whatever goodwill that Mr. Mundalo was saying, so that you can be able to enact them? Stop pulling policies that are against the people. These are the people who voted for you. And the last one, the character. Actually, that is where we are headed to. That is what we will be able to do. Actually, once the amendment has been enacted and is now working, all these MPs, even in the general elections that are going to come, 3 things that we're going to check on. 1, your ideas. What are your ideas? 2, your policies. Are the policies that you want to put crazily going with the ideas? And then are they for the goodwill of the people? Not in terms of the goodwill of you and whatever you think you want to do. And then the last one is character. If you've got anything that is questionable, kindly, can you step aside? We need a new devolution. We need a new revolution where we will say, this is what the Gen Zs want, and then this is what we would like to be able to get. And it's not about, I think, it's not even about begging. We are not begging. We now need to say we are demanding this because this is our nation. We don't need to go outside there and study and try to pull stands out there, visit other countries. This country is safe for us. So can they make the country better for these people who are going to grow up? And the last one, kindly, can they be able to give us chances? Chances for us to be able to be placed in a position and be able to say, this is what we think is right. Can we move? Whatever these issues have been from the last wars, huyu ni mtoto, achana na yeye. Ama his views do not matter at the moment. Huyu bado hakuna kitu anajua. No, we now know, and this is what we'd like to have. So
the focus is now on the reconstitution of the cabinet.
Yes.
What are your views on that?
3 things, ideas, the cabinets that are going to be put there. What are the ideas? 2, what are the policies that they would like for them to be able to enact those ideas that they're planning to put? And then 3, their character. If you've got any questionable thing or any questionable character, kindly don't even come because we will be able to question you. I can see a lot of people are saying that they would like other members to come on board. Yes, it's okay, but then we need to now do the checklist, the bookmark. How is it looking like?
So will it augur well with you if President William Ruto had instated some of his
at the moment,
members?
No. Chacha, you've ever been pushed? Yeah, Chacha, you've ever been pushed to a wall and then all of a sudden, the person that is pushing you there has quizzed you to a point of you're tired. So once you're from there, you're like, I am not going back here. That is where the Gen Zs are. So we are not going back. Vitu za kitambo tumechana nayo. The registration of this particular CSS who are going to come on board, we don't want them. We just want a new revolution. We want a new nation. We want a new country where we can be able to learn, where we can be able to be accommodated as a nation, as a children of this particular state.
Well, thank you so much, James Aosa. He is a Gen Z and as well a communication expert who has joined us on this panel. We'll be allowing another voice also from the Gen Z movement, or actually it's a generation, it's a revolution, to join us shortly. But now to Advisor Mundalo. You've heard clearly what James has said, that those are still the demands that President William Ruto needs to meet. What do you make of them?
Joel, the youth bulge in Kenya, and not just in Kenya but in Africa, is a real menace. Because just last week, I finished hosting the Pan-African Youth Convention at the Kenya School of Government. And I hosted former President Obasanjo together with Raila Odinga and Kalonzo and a few other people with over 300 young people from across the continent. That the Gen Z in Kenya and the young people in Kenya, same issues that are being raised across board. So it is not just even a Kenyan problem. What African governments are now supposed to start understanding is that the young people need to be involved in their issues. And when the young people are not involved in their issues, we'll get to a place where they will be able to push themselves and involve themselves by force. That's why it's important. I agree with everything that he has been able to say, that yes, the young people need employment. The young people need a health cover. The young people need to be in an education system that when they are told they should go to school and they will get jobs, it should be able to answer to that reality. That is what the young people need. And I agree totally with that. What I'm just saying is that government must also be able to occasion these and enact these in a quick and fast manner. But even as that happens, it's also my call that, you know what, for governments to be able to act again, we need to have an environment that enables government work. That's why I'm saying once there is goodwill, government must be able to be enabled to work so that we can be able to have these deliverables. Because governments exist for 5 years, and I'm not saying that we must be able to wait until something happens at the 5th year, but I'm saying we have been able to make our voice. We've been able to put the government to task. Now, can we be able to put them to task in terms of now, can we then be able to have deliverables? Otherwise, when we are perpetually in a crisis and perpetually in a time where nothing can be able to be done, then we continue retrogressing. We seem to be moving within a roundabout. So for me, it's also about, now that we are at this place, can we now be able to have a time when government can now be able to act on these demands that have been able to come on board, because they are the reality. And the youth bulge, Joel, for Kenya, and I say it is not just for Kenya but for Africa, it's immense. The unemployment problem is crazy. The millennials out there in the streets, most of them do not actually have jobs. Has this problem actually begun with William Ruto, to be very fair? It is something that has been there, it has been occasioned for a long time. And that's why we also need to give governments an opportunity and say, okay, fine, these are the issues. Can you now be able to act on them? The JSC teachers, can they now get hired? The medical interns, because we must be able to have a time when now we must be able to give grievances, and government must also be able to act on those grievances. Otherwise, when we perpetually are in a season of demonstrating all the time, then again there is no time for our grievances to be actioned on.
Tuesday, at least every Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday is, when you say Tuesday and Thursday, Joel, that's basically an entire week. So we are spending time planning demonstrations, we are spending time. So for me, it's about, there must also be time for government to action the plan. That is what I'm saying.
And now to, Steve, something James mentioned before he left was around on how the cabinet should be reconstituted. He says it wouldn't augur well to reinstate some of the dismissed members of the cabinet. What are your views on this?
I think from what I pick from James' statement, I will coin it to Article 10 of the Constitution, which has set out rules, values, principles of good governance, and what we expect to see from our leaders. And I think if we go back to 2010, when we were inaugurating our constitution, August 2010, the whole world was very happy. Everyone was very happy that Kenya has given itself a new constitution. Kenya has started a new dispensation where we're expecting serious reforms, especially to the respect of the human rights. And that explains even the formatting of the pagination of the constitution, where in the previous constitution, the issue of executive was among the first chapters. And we moved it quite far, and we dealt with the issues of human rights and things that are of value to this country, especially on the principles and values of governance. So when we are saying we want a reconstitution of cabinet, we are expecting the president, as a show of goodwill, to also bring on board people who exhibit characters and who their track record shows they are persons of integrity, persons of who can be held accountable, people who respect the values and principles of this constitution. People, if they have served in various government positions before, we look back at how they served. We cannot, they're not persons whom we're going to hold, we're going to claim they ate money for a particular activity. The guys whom we know are known to take to the podium and insult people, especially on incitement on ethnic lines. So there are guys we know, and they used to do that. We have seen them when they were serving in parliament and others in various government positions. So those are the kind of creatures we don't want to see serving in the government if we are going to be honest and have an honest conversation when it comes to good governance in this country. And it's not just the cabinet, and I think this is something we need to appreciate. It trickles down to the PSAs, it trickles down to parastatos, trickles down to the office of the governor, trickles down to the office of the member of parliament, especially on the NGCDF. Some of these things, you need to do away with them, like the NGCDF. It's a constitutional and constitutional fund which has been used to also manage the parliamentarians, making them not have proper oversight over the government, and use these mechanisms to ensure that they are held hostage. If you ask them why they voted for the finance bill, they'll tell you it's about the NGCDF. No one's talking about their role as a parliamentarian. So we need to bring back and breathe a life to this constitution. And that is what we want to see in the new Kenya that I think everyone is clamoring for.
And just as you can see on your screens, that's the situation at Kware. Police there are lobbing tear gas canisters, those that are around. A place where at least 10 bodies have been discovered all women. And of course, our very own Ben Kirira was live for us from there. He says as soon as a body was today discovered, then there was a push and pull of who should take it to the city mortuary, but the police managed to get the body. And as well, the situation at the Nairobi CBD, you know, a section of protesters, of course, are having come out just in ensuring that the demos that had been planned for today see the light of the day. And there is one who is there holding a placard. I've not managed to see what is written on it, but David Kagina is there and will keep updating us on what is transpiring. Keep sending in your views via social media platforms at K24 TV, at Joel Church, as well on our SMS and WhatsApp numbers on what you feel on the situation in the country today. In Kware, there is a young man who has been arrested there by the police. And we will be getting the number of how many have been arrested today, and also an update from the LSK of whether they will be released or what will be the charges if upon they will spend the night in custody and are supposed to be presented before the courts, that is after 24 hours. Back in studio, my director, Joan, if you can reveal my new guest, that is Ker Abich Carlos. He is the Secretary General of the Mount Kenya University Thika branch. Thank you so much for getting time. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
What do you make of today's Gen Z demos? What are these issues that you are pushing for?
Thank you so much, Chacha. Today is, for the past 1 month, I can say, it's been quite, I can term it as quite fortunate for us, because as you can clearly tell, the Gen Z have become the new face of revolution that this country needs. It has become the official opposition leader that keeps the government in check on what, on the do's and don'ts that are supposed to be done. You say you've officially replaced the Azimio principal, Raila Odinga? Of course. We're the people who have officially, and we are ready to take the mantle, and as you can see, we are, it has already bore fruits. There are some of the key issues that which have been brought down. As a university student leader, I must say that the new funding model, to begin with, needs to be reformed. If it cannot be reformed, let us use the old system that has always been in place. Yes. And to advise, you know, this issue of the new, university funding model seems to really relate with the Gen Zs who are in the universities, and perhaps that's why we're seeing some of the university students also participating in these demos. Yeah. How can President William Ruto address it?
I think it is not a very complicated matter. It is just about getting the right stakeholders within the education sector give us what should be actually done, because most of the time is also we suffer the burden of allowing politicians take stock of policy formulation. Like my brother here is a lawyer. It would be very unprecedented for me to be able to want to be at the center stage of a legal framework. So sometimes we also have to have that divide. Yes, getting into office and the governance of the country is a political process, but the governance in itself, we must be able to involve the reality of the professionals in the field. So like the funding model, and how, not just the funding model even alone, how the education sector is totally handled must be a reserve of those ones who are experts in the field. And not just that, I'll also be able to add even the way university student leaders like my brother here is gotten into office. Because you remember, we had the Duale bill that came some time back that was able to scrap off elections from universities. And that is the reason why most of the student leaders today would be in office. But the level of legitimacy they would have from their peers is wanting, because they were not elected by popular vote. Most of the student leaders would want to be elected on popular vote, so that then they can be able to hold the legitimacy of all the students, so that then they can be able to push an agenda effectively. So for me, I feel there is a lot within the the education sector that just needs a lot of professional relook. You even look at the CBC curriculum. In as much as I agree that it has its positives, like for instance, when we talk about just ensuring that there is a talent approach to education, that we are not just being able to lump a lot of things on a child who at the end of the day maybe is a social science person. Maybe this at the end of the day, this child is a science person, but we are spending a lot of time on another thing. But then be that as it may, the implementation is also a critical situation, because I keep saying if we are learning by observation, then how will children in Bungoma County, Naitiri, learn to be pilots when there is no plane there?
Well, let's now get to David Kagina, who's joining us from the Nairobi's CBD. David Kagina, what's the latest as of now?
Well, indeed, Joel Chacha, as we last checked, when tear gas did indeed disperse and choke businesses, right now the demonstrations appear to have shifted lanes from Moi Avenue. We are currently standing at Kimathi Street, and the pictures coming right at you are those of police officers dispersing demonstrators who had gathered here, appearing to have shifted lane from the initial Moi Avenue now to this Kimathi Street, where we've along just opposite Nation Center, and you can see right there beams of smoke coming from the tear gas canisters that have just exploded. And this has been in the norm since around 11 o'clock in the morning, with anyone who had business within the CBD having to either push it to another day or postpone it or cancel it entirely, because business cannot operate under these circumstances. However, it is within the CBD that action is primarily based in. When you look at other areas, the activities are quite relaxed, and that you can see right there is one of the demonstrators right there with a placard that his claim is he's calling for help for diploma comrades, as well as calling against the killing of protesters by whoever has been perpetrating that. And indeed, Chacha, this has been the situation. However, these demonstrations are a bit unique. We have not witnessed a lot of distraction other than the push and pull between police officers as well as the demonstrators. As you can see, very fearless, confronting, even having situations where we have them confronting police officers, requesting them not to not to use their tear gas against them. And sometimes even like right now, as you can see, some even have the guts to sit on the road right opposite police officers, sometimes negotiating with them, trying to say they are peaceful. But what we have witnessed is that they are very resistant to some of them being arrested. In comparison to other demonstrations where we had police officers sweeping through and arresting some of the protesters, today the police officers have really faced a lot of resistance in terms of arrest, because we have had the demonstrators now pelt stones at officers who've tried to arrest probably those they've pinpointed probably at the forefront of these demonstrations. And just to move closer so that we can see if we can get just one of them who can come and speak to us as to their push for the call and what informs their demonstrations within Nairobi CBD today. And probably welcome to K24. Tell us probably what has pushed you to come to the streets today.
Number one, people are being killed just anyhow. We cannot allow that. We want good governance in the country. We don't want politicians to play with our minds. We cannot accept. That's why we're on the streets. And the police should stop tear gassing us. We are peaceful.
Well, indeed, you can also see the pictures of them right there. What they're currently doing is singing the national anthem, and probably just to leave you to the natural sounds of whatever is happening right now for you to get a feel of it. Remember, right opposite the demonstrators are police officers exercising their restraint, we'd say. Right there observing the demonstrators sing the national anthem, holding flags up high. But right before they concluded that, we have an exchange of tear gas canisters and stones being pelted in different directions. Joel Chacha, that is the current situation right here. Smoke billowing from that billboard that has become a casualty of the wrath and a victim of the demonstrations right here. Those are the pictures of Joel Chacha from Kimathi Street, Nairobi CBD. So right now, guys are just choking on tear gas, all left, right, center. But since this has been the norm since morning, we'd assume some of them are either slowly adapting or deriving mechanisms to avoid the pangs of the canisters. And Joel Chacha, that is the current situation. Allow me to give it back to you in studio, even as we continue filming and ensuring that our viewers do not miss anything that is transpiring on these streets today.
Well, thank you so much, David Kagina, who is there to ensure that you get the real pictures of what is transpiring. We now cross over to Kware, where our very own Ben Kerera is live for us. Good afternoon, Kerera. We've seen some of the residents being arrested. What has transpired?
Yes, Chacha, what you're seeing are live pictures of demonstrators here at Kware Mukuru Kwanjenga who continue to engage themselves in a battle with the police here. And what you're seeing is police have managed to push back these demonstrators quite a number of meters back from where they were previously, which was quite close to the Kware police station, as I had mentioned earlier, where they were trying to gain access to. We continue to witness quite a number of these demonstrators trying to also push back at the police by pelting quite a number of stones as well. But this has, for minutes now, not borne any fruit, and the police continue to take lead in
For the slight hitch there, we'll be getting back to Ben Kerera to give us an update of what is happening in Kware. Back to you, Ker Abich, Carlos, Secretary General, Mount Kenya University, Thika. On the reconstitution of the cabinet, that's where our conversation had actually reached. What are these issues and who are these people do you want to see in the new cabinet?
First, I want to say that when you observe keenly on the demographic codes of the majority of the people that are demonstrating on the streets are the youths. Youths out of the 50 million Kenyans, thereabout, that are in this country, we are the majority. And therefore, we don't understand clearly on why is it that during campaign times we are being used, and after the campaign we see, I can say, the old-aged people who are taking care of our resources. Basically, what we are trying to say, we are not against of all the cabinet secretaries that the president fired or the ones that he is planning to appoint. But number one thing, we must agree, some of them were having a lot of ego, and they were not performing. We can say that they were living in opulence at the expense of the youths who are really struggling with the life, down to earth here. So basically what we need, we want people, even if it is the old age or the Gen Z who are appointed, of course we must be represented there because we are the majority and our voices must be heard. We need people who have expertise on whichever fields that they are deployed on. We don't just need people who just need the title of becoming a CS and moving around with all our money, the taxpayers' money, at the expense of our votes and our rights. So we feel that we are supposed to be represented as Gen Zs. We're supposed to be represented in that cabinet. Even if it's three-quarter of it or half or quarterly, we need to be represented, and those who are going to represent us should be able to understand the roles that they are going to play there. Yes.
Well, at that juncture, we take a short commercial break. Come back, we'll still be focusing on what is happening across the country as far as the Gen Z demonstrations are concerned. We take a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more updates right here on K24. We'll be right back.
Have you watched K24? We would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, SMS, Twitter,